once I started to actually think in terms of frequencies and consider my thoughts as frequencies, and I started to actively and actually practice enhancing certain frequencies and diminishing other frequencies, that is literally when my life completely transformed. And I have been researching this for the last 6 years, actively implementing what I've been learning from, quantum physics, and I've been interviewing quantum physicists, implementing, understanding how frequencies and thoughts do essentially project a reality into the future. And I say this very humbly because I don't want to come off as like braggadocious, but my life completely transformed. I made more money than I've ever made in my life. I have the most amazing friends. I used to struggle with anxiety and depression, dropped out of college because of it, and completely changed all of that in my life without any medication. I was paid $10,000 to move to the city I wanted to go to. Literally, it just dropped out of nowhere. They actually paid me to buy the furniture for the apartment of my dreams, which only opened up the week I was there. It wasn't available. And then I got a call literally the week that I was looking. It says, hey, this room opened up. Do you want to check it out? Perfect room. It was my dream apartment. And, since then I've been able to interview these amazing consciousness researchers about quantum physics and like what is going on. They are trying to understand how, what our reality is and how we exist within our reality. And what I have come to now talk about and try to coach on with people is how thoughts are things, thoughts are frequencies. So what do I mean by that? Every single day, I used to wake up in a pattern, in a loop of thoughts where I would just think about basically the same things that I was thinking about the day before. So for me, this is like 6 years ago, I was thinking about all the problems that I had going on, all the arguments that I had, happening, all of the issues that were going on in my life, and unaware that because thoughts are frequencies, we can only access what frequency we are most consistently on. So I was unaware that by thinking, constantly looping these things, I was actually attracting more of those things, or effectively expanding those problems in my life with my attention. So one of the biggest tools to anybody in our day-to-day life is learning to pay attention and respect your focus and your attention. That is what I learned, is what I focus on grows. And that is so true of all of humanity in like every single way. But I want to tie this into how consciousness researchers and even myself in implementing this over the last 6 years have come to see this and are kind of like coming to see this. So first things first, it's important to say that there is not one person out there who fully understands what's going on in the world. It's just not true. But these consciousness researchers who I am speaking to are coming to find actually that our old concept of space-time, meaning that Einstein's proposal and theory that everything is space-time, everything's held in space-time, it was made in the 30s, I think it was, might actually be fundamentally flawed. Not that space-time isn't a thing, but in effect, space-time is a framework of how to see reality, but even deeper than that, it's actually consciousness that is the baseline of our reality. And so one of the ways that we as humans experience, consciousness, and how we, like, if consciousness is the fundamental baseline of reality, which is what the physicists are coming to find, that means I am consciousness, you are consciousness. These golfers around me, they probably hate me because I'm on a golf course right now. Why I'm on a golf course, it's another story, but they are consciousness. The necklace, the mic that I'm wearing, all of this is consciousness. And so that means so are our thoughts. Consciousness, what they're coming to find, expands. It just simply expands. It's not like there's any, it kind of like multiplies and continues to create. And its entire job is to create order and organization. So for me, when I used to think about all the problems in my life and loop all the problems in my life, I was effectively, unknowingly, practicing a frequency. And because the universe, consciousness, doesn't understand contraction, it just only understands expansion, that frequency was expanding more and more and more and more and more out into the world, projecting from me. And then because of the concept of law of attraction and what we know, basic science is like attracts like, atoms vibrate at a frequency and they match the same like frequencies, there's resonance there. Because I was projecting that frequency by constantly paying attention to it and noticing it and talking about it and thinking about it and obsessing over it, that was what was coming back to me. And so for me, I thought that I was just an anxious person. I thought that I was just somebody who was doomed to be, I used to say that I'm somebody who has to work to be happy. I remember that was like a kind of a conclusion that I came to where I was like, dang, I'm just that person who literally every single day I have to try to be happy. And the thing is, I used to have to do that. And now, once I started to, like I said, practice and think in terms of frequencies, I have the most amazing life. And every single day, I am happy. I'm human. There's some days where I wake up and it's a little bit harder than others. That's rare. But when I say I'm truly happy, I really mean it. And I am compelled to share this, not because I want to be braggadocious about this, not because I think that I'm better than everybody. In fact, it's the opposite. I believe everybody is meant for that. We are meant to be happy, because if we're all consciousness, if we're all experiencing consciousness at the same time, there's our own, what they're finding is there's our own consciousness, or individual consciousness here, and then that creates the collective consciousness. And so by our focus and our attention, we are actually creating not only our own consciousness sphere, but then that perpetuates into the collective consciousness, which means that should we actively and actually shift our attention and practice a frequency of good feeling thoughts, then we can effectively transform our own consciousness, which then expands into the greater consciousness to create an expansive, self-perpetuating, amazing, life and world as a collective, not just for ourselves. And so kind of taking this from a little bit more of a grounded science approach. I am somebody who, I am a sales director at a Fortune 500 company. I live in the world of capitalism. I love capitalism. It is also, a version of reality, but I love it. I think it's fun. And I'm not somebody who really buys into too much woo-woo stuff unless I can kind of understand it for myself, because there's a lot of things out there. I think there's a lot of people that just talk a lot about a lot of stupid stuff. I shouldn't say that, but whatever. So I went to understand why and how my practice of changing my frequency was working. And I practiced, enhancing and diminishing frequencies every single day. And this is really the science behind it that's really fascinating. And this is very simplified, but all of us have an electromagnetic field around us. So I've interviewed, again, like a lot of these quantum researchers and even people who study other psi capabilities, which is now becoming a normal thing to study. But I interviewed Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell. I'll attach that link below. You should totally watch it. She is the chief scientist of the podcast called the Telepathy Tapes, where they're effectively researching consciousness and researching if telepathy is real. It's crazy. And she explained how humans have a kind of like a sphere of consciousness around us. It's in the shape of an apple. And so does Earth. All of it does. She said every living thing does. But there is this, electromagnetic component to it where and this is going into more of the science. This isn't necessarily what she said, but this is what I've come to learn. The way that we think, our thoughts actually create a chemical reaction in our body. And that chemical reaction then creates an electromagnetic field around us, which goes into that sphere, that apple-like thing, that is actually emitting energy. And again, because we know everything is made up of atoms and frequencies and all that kind of stuff in the world, everything is literally made up of atoms and they vibrate at a specific frequency. this electromagnetic field is a language of its own that actually either it's like it's there whether we want it to be or not. Every single day we have one, and it more or less communicates without, myself communicating to the world what I'm about. And because like attracts like, whatever my sphere is, my aura is around me, that energy, that electromagnetic field is, I get whatever is equal to that. That's what comes to me. And so literally, our thoughts actually create our reality. Frequencies create our reality because your thoughts release this chemical reaction in the body, which merges with basically this field, and the field projects out to the world what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and it actually pulls in its match. It's crazy. And so this isn't like new science. This is just stuff that's becoming more accepted these days. But once I learned to actually change the electromagnetic field around me, that's what I'm talking about, enhancing or diminishing frequencies by my attention. That is when I started to literally see my life transform in every single fucking way possible. Friends, family, wealth, podcast. I interview the most amazing people on my podcast. I'm here speaking with you about the most amazing thing in the world, which is how you can create your own reality. Like what a cool, blessing that is. And I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm a carnivore coach. I help people understand how to, change their life through their food and also through frequencies. I'm saying this though, again, whenever I talk about this, I want to be so careful because I want to speak from a very humble position in that tuning our frequency, it's like the tuning fork of our frequency. What I've learned is that my obsession and my focus on all of those negative things in my life before was inhibiting me and blocking me from being able to receive what is meant for me. Because again, there's another thing that they're finding in superposition, or in quantum, that's called superposition, that all of these photons and everything kind of exists in all potentials all the time. Everything does. Like the reality that I wanted 6 years ago existed for me, but I wasn't tuned to a frequency to be able to pull it in, to create it, to attract it. And so the humble part about this that I think I want to say is, I am not the only person creating here. I think there's a language to God, to the universe. And we hear it in every single religion, in every single way of approaching, a old scripture. It's love and it's appreciation and it's gratitude. I have done all this research and practicing all this stuff and interviewing these researchers in quantum. It's not only the old scriptures, like even in the Christian Bible or in Judaism, the Torah, that talks about love and gratitude and appreciation and how that's a language that God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, the divine, understands. But when you actually look at the quantum research, they're finding that our intent has so much to do with our ability to create our reality or not. It's our intent. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to have a very positive intent, I don't think, to be able to create our realities. But I think that through, at the end of the day, our intention and our focus intention pulls our attention towards something greater than us. So for me, when I was living in this anxious state, my attention was only focused on my problems, my issues, my anxiety, and I was thinking equal to that frequency. There's like an emotional scale, right? So my thoughts were equal to a lower energy frequency on that scale. I could not actually perceive in that time of all the amazing things around me, because when you're thinking in terms of a frequency, you don't have access to the other frequencies. They're there, they're surrounding us. It's kind of like, it's like dogs, how dogs can hear sounds that we can't hear. they can perceive of things that we cannot. It's the same thing when we think on a frequency that's low, we literally cannot access the other frequencies or thoughts or versions of reality that are literally around us, but we're not able to perceive of them. And that's how I used to live. Once I started to elevate my frequency by beginning to pay attention to what I noticed, rather than focusing on all of the problems of my life and all of the drama and all that stuff, I started to look at all of the amazing ways that life was working for me. You know, for example, like this is gorgeous where I am right now, just being here. It's just so gorgeous and so beautiful. Paying attention to that. The fact that I went and got coffee this morning and there was no traffic, beautiful. Like, that's a good thing, you know. It's a small thing, but it's actually kind of a big deal, because think about how annoying it is when you're in traffic and it just screws up your day and like whatever. Like, I started to pay attention to that. I started to pay attention to the texts I might receive from family where, you know, maybe it's just like a small hello, but what does that mean? That means that person is thinking of me. I used to obsess about being lonely and not having enough people in my life, and I wouldn't notice the small ways that people were actually thinking of me and recognizing how cool that was. And so by turning my focus and my attention to those things, I believe that what I learned to do is learn to more effectively speak the language of God, or, you know, speak in a way that would eventually raise my frequency up higher from, you know, whatever it is, shame, sadness, whatever is low on the emotional scale, up higher to a much higher frequency, which is gratitude, appreciation, love, you know, adoration, those kinds of feelings. And then that is when, because I believe that channel opens, the things that are meant for me, the reality that I wanted, the dreams that I had and have, started to drop into my life. But again, it goes back to focus and attention. We live in a society where so much of our attention is pulled away from our center, from our true power, which is, you know, love and gratitude and appreciation. And, you know, I get that it might come off as contrived and easy to say, like, you know, I have a wonderful life and all that, but before, it was really not cool. You know, my mom was an alcoholic, best mom in the world. I don't want to make it sound like she wasn't, but yeah, it was terrible to watch her life fall apart. I was just in a place of darkness. My work life was a mess. My relationships were a mess. I had an eating disorder, super bad, felt really lonely. And I shifted my life to the life that I have now through simply practicing my attention and my focus, and understanding that our thoughts are frequencies, and our thoughts create chemical reactions that actually create that sphere, that aura around us. That, again, once I learned to raise my focus, my frequency, I should say, to one of gratitude and like humility and appreciation, that is when I saw everything begin to drop in my life. So I have a method for how I do this. It's called the Magic Book. I never used to talk about this publicly ever. I've only ever like coached on it, but I recently started talking about it, and so many people are wanting to learn more about it. So if you are wanting to learn more about it, I have a community where I educate whoever wants to know how I raised my frequency through very simple but very powerful methods on the day-to-day through this thing that I call the Magic Book. And it's a way to practice one's attention and focus, but it's also a way to pull in the reality that we know is meant for us. You know, the reality, like when I say everything I've written in this book has come true, that's what's happened. And I want to share it with you if you are compelled to want to be involved with it. It's not a scam. You know, this isn't like some quick, easy, like learn it and you're done in the next day kind of thing. This takes intention and like understanding thoughts as frequencies. But if you are curious to learn more about this, drop in the comment Magic Book below. And if not, that's fine. I will continue to share this information because I think it's just that powerful and that important, and it changed my life that much. So, okay, I'm gonna go now. I am on this golf course. Yeah, they probably hate it. I'm like kind of off to the side, you know, where they can't really hit me, but they're all probably like, why is this girl on the golf course? Like, honestly, this guy's staring at me right now. Classic salmon shirt too. Classic. No hate, but you know, it is what it is. Okay, oop, he's pulling up here. He's gonna say something. Oh, he was filming me as I was filming him.
I gotcha.
Gotcha.
What are you doing?
I'm just taking a video.